Legacy media is falling apart, and as it crumbles, a void is opening, a void that we intend to fill. The big legacy news networks currently average just 1.2 million viewers a weeknight, and those numbers are only going to get lower. Legacy media is dying, and the younger generation has moved on. Legacy media panders. Legacy media lies. Legacy media does not know what the truth is, and they don't care about it. Legacy media is a dumpster fire. This is why we few in our wild imaginations have started the Fight Laugh Feast Network. Our goal is to take down the legacy media giant of the last 50 years with our 5 stones. We started in 2016 with our flagship show, Cross Politics. Since those small beginnings, we now air on DirecTV. Our broader podcast network now gets over 4 million downloads a year. And our Fight Laugh Feast pub, which includes TV shows like This America, The Rowdy Christian's Guide, Pastors in Politics, and As the Lord Pleases, with your support, many more to come. Our goal is to become the flagship new media 2.0 network over the next 50 years and take over nightly news, sports, sitcoms, hunting shows, and more, all conveniently stored for you in our Fight Laugh Feast pub. We're already reaching the next generation through our podcast shows on YouTube, X, and our pub, while also tapping into legacy media audiences by airing our shows on TV through DirecTV and Xfinity. We have made a lot of progress with some duct tape and a good bit of intuition and a lot of sweat. And now we need your support more than ever. The TV networks have had such a negative impact on our households, and we're trying, by the grace of God, to put a stop to that. We have the opportunity. We just need the army. Now more than ever, we need you to join our pub to help us reach our goal of 1 million pub supporters in the next 5 years. There's no way around it. Competing with Fox and the Alphabet networks without money is virtually impossible. It's cheap for you to join. And when you do, you're combining your small monthly support with a growing army of like-minded Christians. We have thousands, we need millions. So if you want more of the Alphabet network's misinformation and lies, don't join. But if you want to give us a mere 5 stones, then please join the pub, and together we will take a swing at the head of big media, all the while fighting, laughing, and feasting to the glory of God. It's Monday. It's good to be with you on Cross Politics.
Thank you. Wow.
Pastor Toby Talk knocks off the water boy.
Happy Monday.
You know, David French wrote an article this weekend.
Oh, no.
And David French, to save masculinity, he's going to dress as a woman.
What? What?
I don't think French.
His article that he wrote was to save conservatism and vote for Kamala.
Oh.
Babylon Bee released a article saying that French says to save masculinity, he will now transition to female.
Wait. Did he actually say? Is that real? I saw that from.
That's a real headline.
To save conservatism, he's going to vote
for commie.
So would that be something like to save slaves? I'm going to vote for their slave masters. Is that kind of like the same thing? Like, how does that like?
Maybe.
You can probably work that in there. Hey, y'all, it's Grace Agenda Week.
Whatever it is, it doesn't make sense.
And we're gonna be. We got a big block party.
Oh, what are you doing?
It's Grace Agenda Week.
Yeah, I know. But what are you
doing?
doing?
So on Saturday, we're gonna be serving ice cream at the block party.
Yeah.
And so we got these cool. You're gonna see us in these aprons here.
Fight, Laugh, Feast aprons.
Yeah, Fight, Laugh, Feast aprons. Look at that.
The block party.
Look at that size on there. I finally figured out because the old ones had like little tiny ones, and I got
okay.
So I'm pretty excited.
But are we going to have more ice cream this year? That's the question.
Yes, we are. Every year we increase it.
We run out.
Every year we increase it.
Like we need to do more.
I think last year we served something like almost like 70 gallons.
Yeah.
62 to 70, something like that.
Wow.
Gallons.
So like 4,000 people.
We're increasing
so
it.
we're going like 100 gallons.
We're trying, okay?
Right,
we're trying.
Okay. All right. Hey, but I got something.
Ooh.
Look at this. You usually bring the gifts, but I haven't even opened this
People
yet.
say Mondays are bad. Look at this.
Look at this. Look at guys.
So I look at that.
Oh, wow. Lagavulin.
Is that a 16?
16.
Who got that kind of money?
That's delicious. Who got that kind of money?
Sometimes I preach at other churches and people come up and hand you bags of scotch.
Yeah.
So it says it's to the Cross Politic crew. I haven't opened it yet.
Look at this.
Let's see what it says. And
What church is this from?
So this is the Boise CREC church.
Yeah, King's Congregation.
King's Congregation.
May your tribe increase. And your membership too.
So I was down there, preached for them yesterday. Toby, Gabe, and Knox, cheers. Please accept this gift as a token of our appreciation. I hope this is a letter I can read publicly. And gratitude for the work you do in Christ's kingdom, as well as the good you did in Garrison's life. What in the world?
Garrison. That's our boy Garrison. He's in Alabama.
We did good in Garrison's life? I'm kidding. We love you, Garrison. We love you, Garrison. Thank you for the wise counsel, mentoring, friendship you shared. We're so pleased and thankful for God's great kindness toward Garrison during his time with Cross Politic. Thank you. He has grown so much. We pray for your families and endeavors. Enjoy a drink on us. God bless. Sincerely, Hope and Gary Adams. That's his mom.
Oh, yeah.
Garrison's mom.
Mrs. Hardy, don't blame us for whatever he does next.
It's Mrs. Adams.
Mrs. Adams. I'm sorry.
Yes.
Don't blame us for whatever he does next. So I don't know if I want to take this. Whatever he do next on him.
And
that's from the Adams family. Okay, Garrison's mom.
Nice.
And,
cheers to Garrison and his mother.
Yes.
And stepdad.
Yeah. And thank you very much.
We'll take this, but we ain't going to take responsibility for whatever you do. Thank you, guys.
Absolutely. Appreciate that. I'm supposed to read an ad now.
Yeah, you are.
You wanted some of that drink, though. That's what you're thinking about.
He's all off rhythm now.
Discover the world of premium cigars with 1689cigars.com. At 1689 Cigars, I like how it was just like went silent for a second and everybody's like waiting. You'll find an exquisite selection of hand-rolled cigars crafted from the finest tobacco. Whether you're a seasoned aficionado, I almost said it like Gabe does, or new
that
to
sounded right.
Yeah, new to the cigar scene, 1689 Cigar will cater to your palate. Visit 1689cigars.com. That's 1689cigars.com today to elevate your smoking experience and your joy in the Lord. Go to 1689cigars.com today and buy all. It's not even a sentence, but whatever. Buy it all. Mount Athos Performance was created to support your quest for excellence in body, mind, and soul. Here on the Holy Mountain, we believe that true strength is not measured in mere gains, but rather in pursuing anti-fragile longevity, mental resilience, and a rejection of the soul-destroying hedonism of the modern fitness culture. I love getting to read that line. From energizing pre-workouts to muscle-building protein, Mount Athos Performance has everything you need to supplement the holistic foundation of authentic strength and vitality you are building. These supplements also uniquely feature the historic goodness of grass-fed goat whey made in the Pacific Northwest. Visit athosperform.com/FLF today to discover supplements built on purity, sustainability, and the pursuit of excellence. That's athosperform.com/FLF.
There's so much I want to say about that. I'm not going to.
You remember, actually, as you were reading that ad, you remember the Chevron ruling got overturned.
Chevron
and the Chevron ruling was basically where the previous culture of bureaucracies, you would have to default to their own interpretation of the law that Congress gave them to enforce.
Right.
Well, the Chevron doctrine got overturned, meaning that no, you have to default to the Congress's definitions of the words of the laws that they've given the bureaucracies to enforce. I know, imagine that.
Right.
Which and goat's milk right now, and kind of those boutique farms they're trying to regulate. FDA is trying to regulate them.
Yeah,
I bet the Chevron doctrine totally.
I wonder how much that.
I
wonder if that helps them actually. Maybe.
Yeah, that's neither here nor there on the show.
It's funny that you talk about that because I've been lately thinking, and this isn't our show, but I've been thinking about how with everything, watching AI develop and what it's turning into. I saw an image. I think we finally produced an image through AI that is like 99.3%
accurate,
looking like a human. We can't, so that your eye can't tell the difference. They got finally the hands right, so people don't look like they have nine hands on one hand. And it started making me think that this isn't just distrust in software. This is distrust in our whole society. And with everything developing, AI is telling us that we can't trust anything.
Right.
So then I got to have an environment of people that I know are truth tellers and then commune around them to be able to get the things that I know are accurate of what they say. And when you were reading that out from the ad for Mount Athos, I was thinking, oh, here goes another sign of having relationships. our audience has a relationship with us.
Yep.
Yeah.
We have a relationship with these
They trust
guys.
us.
And so now we're not getting the AI kind of trickery that's happened. We know that these people are who they say they are, and they're going to deliver on what it is they said they can deliver. And the only institution that really now I want to be able to put full trust in is the church. Right? And those relationships.
Personal relationships.
Is that a real woman? Well, we know that. We've had communion with them. We've communed with them. We've had relation with them. We know their families.
Right.
This has 3 we can trust that. Right now,
This is not a dude.
I'm very concerned that if my son brings home a girl who we don't know, we gonna have to have a history tracking of who you is, where she come from, who your mammy and them, right? How do you know? We gonna have to, and so community is so important. And knowing that this is what it is was actually in the product. This is going all the way down to the very products that we buy. It's not just an AI issue. It's a what? Who are you with, and how can you trust them?
Well, and that's one of the things I wanted with Cross Politic and all our corporate partners and our ads that we're bringing on to the shows. We're trying to plug people that we agree with, we like, we
actually know
that are honest. That's
I don't know all our companies in a detailed way, but I know them decently.
Right.
I don't talk to all our ad sponsors on the phone, but I email with them, to get who they are, what they're doing, to get all the questions I want out of my mind. In there. So being able to kind of put together like our corporate partners and our advertisers for our audience is actually kind of an important thing for what I do.
It's kind of a return. It's a return to covenantalism. And I was thinking, or another name for it, I think maybe sometimes used derisively is feudalism. It's actually just it's personal agreements, personal relationships, personal covenants, personal oaths and obligations. Right. Because when you don't know those people way over there,
how can you trust what they're?
You don't know what to do.
I don't trust other institutions either.
Well, this actually does get us into what we're going to talk about today. Here is because the old rhinos or the old guard in the conservative party, whatever. I grew up in Texas. George Bush was our governor. George Bush became our president. His dad was a former president. And Southern politicians can shake your hand and make you feel like you're the only person in the room and that we're friends, we're good old boys, that kind of thing. And so I have this just natural Southern distaste for politicians. And so whenever...
except they keep winning.
Who keeps winning?
These Southern politicians.
Yeah, J.D. Vance. So now J.D. Vance is vice president. He's, kind of Midwestern, Southern. There's some relationship there between the kind of the Midwest, Kentuckian and kind of the Southern politician. And so now he's vice president. I really want to trust him.
He's not vice president yet.
He's,
the nominee.
Well, he's no more the presidential nominee Kamala is for him being vice president. Never mind. So I really want to trust him in all this. But okay, so he was on CNN and CBS over the weekend.
State of the Union.
Nation, State of the Union, right? Yeah. And first of all, it's day 18? Kamala hasn't had one interview.
Okay.
She hadn't had one interview.
It's about 3 weeks,
Day 18. And she doesn't have to because the Democratic press or the Democratic owned press, whatever you want to call it, they're just painting the narrative for her.
Right.
She doesn't need to go on interview. For free. Like they're
freedom.
They're creating the narrative for her. They're arguing for her.
The Times article that was there.
She's on the cover of Time magazine right now. It's just amazing what the Democratic-owned press is doing for her. So why would she want to?
Yeah,
right? They're defining her for her, and she likes how they're defining her for her. So, anyways, J.D. Vance, who has no problem being interviewed, unlike Kamala Harris, was on CNN and CBS, both hostile interviews. I mean, it's just at points even kind of a little condescending, and they used women to interview J.D. Vance, which is always part of the play.
You've now asked me 3 questions about comments that I made 3 years ago. I wonder what Kamala Harris thinks about the fact that she supported policies that opened the American southern border. I wonder what Kamala Harris thinks about the fact that she lied to the American people about Joe Biden's mental facility for the office. You are interviewing me, Dana, because I respect the American people enough to sit down for an interview.
I appreciate that.
Kamala Harris has been the nominee for 3 weeks. She hasn't sat down for a real interview.
Believe me, we are asking. You're not going to get a disagreement there.
But the point is, Dana, you've got me for 15 minutes or however long you have me. We should be talking about public policies that matter. How are we going to lower inflation? How are we going to reduce the cost of food and housing? How are we going to close down that southern border? We've talked so little about that. We've talked a lot more about a sarcastic remark I made 3 years ago. I think we should talk about the issues that most Americans care about.
That boy's sharp.
What is he referring to?
His comments about single women and not having babies.
Cat ladies.
So those were the three questions he's referring to. They were about those sarcastic comments. And he's like, let's talk about something real.
Look, I haven't been a JD Vance guy just because I watched him falter on the abortion thing. And that was enough for me. Like, if you're going to give up on that standard, and you've lost me, right? But I have to say, watching him in these interviews, he looks impressive.
Yeah.
He looks like he's sharp. And I always say this too. If you're a vice president, your job is to make sure that people look at you and say, please, never that guy. Right? So it's okay to be a little radical. And he's being just radical enough, just entertaining enough to the press so that people say, we'd much rather have Trump. But the dude is responding in a way that has kind of the Trumpian attitude of attack, but way more polished.
Yeah.
And Vance is like, this is not his world. He's not a white collar dude.
If you watch Vance in the last week since he became VP nominee, he's very strategic, and he's on point with his comments. He's what do you call it? He's
electable.
He's very disciplined. He's very disciplined in what he's saying and how he's responding.
Yes, I think so.
In a way that Trump's just not.
Right.
So, so in the interview, they get into abortion. But first, I want to play this clip from Trump, and this is going to be going around about Trump's evolving thoughts on abortion.
The pill.
Yeah, please.
I have a little quick question. I want to follow up on one of the abortion questions.
Okay.
There are other things the federal government could do, not just a ban. Would you direct your FDA, for example, to revoke access to mifepristone?
Sure, you could do things that would supplement, absolutely, and those things are pretty open and humane.
So this was going around over the weekend.
Like Trump was softening, because earlier he said, no, abortion pill nationwide I'm cool with.
Is that what he said?
Basically.
That's his position.
That's what JD Vance defended.
Right, yeah. But here the question that was hard to hear from a reporter was, would there's other ways of limiting access to abortion or something like that? Would you direct your FDA to revoke access or limit access? To what's it called? Mephiston.
The pill that kills babies.
Yeah, whatever. I don't even know what it's called. And he said something like, "Sure, there are things that you could do."
Yeah. Yeah.
What are you laughing about?
I'm laughing because I just love my Trumpian Republican friends. They're like, so you're saying there's a chance? There's a chance. And he's like, you could, like, if you guys spink Trump at all, you know, there's like, you could do all kinds of things.
Right.
You could fly if you had wings. And they're looking at it like, hey, there's a chance, guys. I'm like, okay, I got it.
Which is true, and he's a masterful politician.
Yeah.
And so, he can frame things like this. The other thing I would point out, though, is like, you could never ask this question, though, in a Kamala press conference.
No.
Like,
no, the Democrat-owned media.
She would just laugh in your face and shut it down. Yeah. But for the fact that you can actually ask the question, would you consider limiting access to abortion pills through the FDA?
Yeah.
And Trump doesn't just laugh you off the stage, even if he later backtracks on it.
Yeah.
I mean, that just tells you there's just a very, very different world you're living in.
Yeah.
No. There's all kinds of.
Okay, so here's JD Vance in the follow-up. This is on CBS Face the Nation. I'm sure they asked him a question on both, but hear him on CBS Face the Nation talking about this.
You supported the Supreme Court ruling recently on mifepristone, the so-called abortion pill, that ruled opponents lacked the legal right to sue over the FDA approval.
That's right.
This drug is used in like 60% of all abortions in the United States. Would you use the FDA to block access to this drug?
Well, no. What the president has said very clearly is that abortion policy should be made by the states. You, of course, want to make sure that any medicine is safe, that it's prescribed in the right way, and so forth. But the president wants individual states to make these decisions because, look, Margaret, California is going to have a different abortion policy from Ohio, which is going to have a different abortion policy from Alabama.
But that was actually different because after Dobbs, the Supreme Court took up this case.
Yeah, but like you said,
viewed it as different.
Sure, but like you said, on a matter of legal standing. But I think that what we really want is when states and voters in those states make decisions, we of course want the states and the federal government to respect those decisions. And that's what President Trump has said. Is consistently, we need to get out of the culture war side of the abortion issue. We need to let the states decide their specific abortion policy. And look, what President Trump and I want to do on family policy is make it easier for families to start in the first place.
Wait a second. Hold on. Now, I'm not the smartest guy in the room by any stretch of the imagination, but I thought we were talking about killing people's future in this abortion pill, and you were strong on families. And how do those two things... I guess there's a chance.
This is what he thinks is a populist argument right now. Right? That's what he's doing. He's thinking, I'm giving the argument that I could probably get most people to agree with.
Well, that gooey middle, right? Yeah. That's what he's, because right now it seems really radical not to give someone the option to have an abortion. And it's because of, right now people are seeing these kind of weird moments where, like, hey, what if the baby has a sickness, right? What if there's something wrong with the baby, right? Then do we have a chance to actually...
Is that what the next clip is?
That's exactly what it is.
Right.
Pull the heartstrings.
They always are going to give you a specific story.
This is why that gooey middle wants to have an abortion pill.
I spoke to a woman named Kate Cox. She lives in Texas.
Sure.
She was 20 weeks pregnant. Her fetus was diagnosed with a disease it was a deadly genetic condition called trisomy 18.
Could be.
She said that carrying the pregnancy, she was told this by her doctors, to term, if the fetus even survived, would hurt her chances for having more children, which she and her husband desperately wanted.
Chances.
Why is not allowing her to end that pregnancy helpful or supportive of expanding families like you want it to be?
Well, first of all, Dana, my heart breaks for this woman. I don't know her personally. I've certainly heard the story, and our heart breaks for her. And we want people to have healthy, happy families. And it's extremely unfortunate that sometimes, medicine, the act of God, whatever happens, it just doesn't work out. And what the president has said, I think, very clearly is that he is not trying to prevent women who have non-viable pregnancies from getting access to the medical care that they need.
But allowing the states to decide, a place like Texas, which has very strict laws now, doesn't allow a Kate Cox to end a pregnancy that is fatal and could potentially hurt her ability to have more kids.
But what President Trump has said is that we are going to let voters make these decisions. And again, Texas might have a view that President Trump disagrees with. They might have a view that President Trump agrees with, but you've got to let the voters make these decisions.
So you're comfortable with that law in Texas?
I'm not comfortable with anything, Dana, because I'm not passing judgment on what these laws should be. You ask me my own personal view. I campaigned against an Ohio referendum, but I think that we have to let voters decide. And when they speak their mind, you have to be respectful. Agree or disagree with whatever voters decide, they're going to make these decisions.
So I don't think for 1 minute JD believes that in his heart. I think that's a pragmatic, populist argument he's giving.
Well, that's even worse.
And I know. Well, I'm not saying. I think is Catholicism, is Catholic faith, tells him he knows the Catholic faith and he knows what their stance is on this.
Every Catholic has to be like, boo, boo.
No, a lot of Catholics are moving that way in terms of political discourse.
I just think there's so much a missed opportunity here.
Yeah.
Honestly.
Where?
Because, rather than highlighting and glorifying the choice of the voters, he has this is a tee up.
Yeah.
Like, he has an opportunity to say, and I think there's a way he could have done this and without stealing or running roughshod over Trump's political whatever. I think he had an opportunity to say, now, what's her name? Dana?
Yeah.
Dana, we're talking
political arm of Kamala Harris.
No.
Yeah.
Dana, we're talking about human beings.
Yeah. Every child matters.
We're talking about human beings. Now, we have some significant differences in this country, and I don't have the power to just willy-nilly tell everybody what they can and cannot do.
Right.
I'm not a king, I'm not a dictator.
Right.
But we're talking about human beings.
Yep.
Right? We're talking about taking the lives of unborn children.
Yeah.
I think it's a massive missed opportunity to say that baby with trisomy 19, 18 is a human being made in the image of God.
Yeah.
And those lives matter.
Right.
These lives matter.
Well,
I think he can affirm basically this is where the law of the land is currently.
Yeah.
And I'm not a dictator. I don't have the right. I don't have the power to just walk in, march in, and order people to do stuff. Right. But we're talking about human beings here, and I think that's what he ought to be doing.
Yeah. Well, and I think also there's a way you can turn this on the media that makes them look really bad.
Yeah.
So for
example,
that's what
I think would do. I mean, I think
it's part of how you turn it.
I mean, a bunch of CNN and CBS viewers would probably think, "Oh, this guy's like fundamentalist wacko."
Yeah.
But a whole bunch of the Christian,
the populists,
and even the centrists, they know they're human beings.
Yeah.
We're talking about human beings. We're not talking about these blobs of tissue.
Yeah. So I amen everything you said, and then I would turn it on her and also say, look, you guys are asking me these questions about the Supreme Court rulings, things I have no control over, whatever, but you guys refuse to ask Governor Terry McAuliffe about McAuliffe, I believe, about
Virginia, former governor of Virginia,
right, where he explicitly stated, hey, if a baby's born alive in a botched abortion, we would wrap it up and set it aside and have that conversation.
Did he say wrap it up? I think he just said set it aside.
I don't even know if he's talking about wrapping it up.
He said wrap it up. Did he say wrap it up?
I don't know.
I'm pretty sure.
You're being too nice,
We
Gabe.
would swaddle it. Well, it's even worse. If I'm right, it's even worse. We'd swaddle the baby, wrap it and put it aside, and then have that conversation. Why don't you ask the governor of Virginia, the former governor of Virginia on that?
You would leave a baby to die on a table.
And you haven't done any of your due diligence as a media personality in this. It's insane. Turn it right on her. Right. You're crazy.
I don't have a problem doing that. I'm with that. I'll take yours and I'll take yours and I'll raise you guys.
Put them all together.
Okay.
But I think I'm saying the same thing. Thinking about Bonson's book, Crisis of Responsibility, this hit me working through some of this stuff because I'm thinking of his responsibility and duty as a person who is in a political office, but I'm also thinking of the responsibility and duty of a mother and a father who are supposed to be. We're talking about families, okay? So first of all, that definition matters because it gives duties and responsibilities to the people who have a child. Yep. I am a husband. It is my duty and responsibility to protect my family, to die for my wife if need be. That's in the definition of a father, okay? If you are a mother, you're not at war with your child. You have a duty and responsibility to protect your child with your own life. And somehow in this conversation, we're saying it is okay for a mother to give up her responsibility and duty as a mother to kill her child.
For and notice how she framed it.
Yeah.
It was a total, it was a soft toss.
For growing my family.
For a chance at maybe having more kids. It's like, do the math.
It just took one away.
No, but as a mother, everything in you is like for the possibility of another child, you'd be willing to be like, this is just getting hard.
Yeah.
Let's kill it.
Yeah.
Well, no, you would never do that. Everything in you is like, this is my baby. I want to do everything I can to protect this baby.
And it's like you said, and this is why I think what you just said is so important. We're working with someone made in the image of God. Right? We don't just toss them away and act like they're and this is the doctors. My first response in this would have been like, well, first of all, I'm gonna tell you something. I had 6 home births. I don't trust doctors on hardly anything they say, especially after COVID. Right? That would have been I mean, really. And one of the things that especially black people, the last thing they should be doing is trusting doctors. I just would have just said it. But we act as if it is okay for people to give up the definitions and the responsibilities that follow those definitions. You don't just get to give that up. You are called to that. That's your responsibility and duty as a husband, as a father, as a mother.
I think that's a great point, and I also think that even just that. I mean, you're talking about again, how do you answer questions in a savvy way? While not completely selling the farm. And I think your point about the COVID thing, that would be great comeback too, is like the doctors told her that she's most likely not going to have more babies. Again, do the math. First of all, that's terrible moral logic. But number two, I've told the story on the show before.
I was thinking about this.
I've had old, gray-haired, grandpa-looking doctors tell me that my daughter was going to have all kinds of genetic disorders, and that and strongly recommended that we consider abortion.
Man,
for my 16-year-old daughter. I don't know how you didn't
punch him right there. Wow.
My wife probably was about to, but
take that COVID needle right in his throat.
But
okay,
whoa.
Okay, I just put myself in your shoes just for a second and got really mad.
But they like. The insanity, though, of these doctors, I mean, it's really, really high. And so when she says, well, the doctor says there's a potential, a chance, we had these nurses, they came in like, we're going to do a bunch of tests. And I was like, okay. And I was like, we're kind of in this haze because my daughter was a twin and her twin had died. Yeah. And so that was part of it. And it was the same day. And they're like, we want to do tests on your living baby right around 20 weeks, right around the same time as this trisomy 18 baby, and we went to do a bunch of tests. We check for Downs and genetic disorders and all stuff, and then we kind of shuttled into a room, and we're sitting there waiting, and the nurse comes in and starts telling, here's the sign the papers, and all of a sudden, kind of in the middle of us, like, wait, like, so if she has any of these genetic disorders, what would we do? Like, what can we do to like help the baby? And she was like, oh, nothing. And then I said, oh, well, we're going to go home now.
Yeah. Yeah,
like you can't help I mean, if you could do something to help my baby, like okay,
we're going for that.
But she's we can't do anything for that. I'm like, we're going home. And my daughter was born with no genetic disorders.
Yeah,
at all. And so I think, but again, part of my point is sometimes they're wrong, very, very wrong, like this.
Yeah.
And I think there's a good reason for J.D. Vance and these Republicans to push back heavily on the authority of the medical field.
The doctors that were just telling you to stand 6 feet apart.
Exactly. I think you're absolutely right. This call is in the jurisdiction of the family.
Yeah.
Fathers and mothers are to make this decision.
Yeah.
And the medical field has just proven themselves to be complete clowns.
Yeah.
Yep.
Telling us about COVID 6 feet apart, masks that don't work, not to mention the fact that they're not sure about what a woman is, what boys and girls are.
Yep.
And they're frequently very wrong. And you're asking us to say, you might be right.
Yeah.
And we have good friends who had babies that did have very massive genetic disorders and deformities and so on. And
they handle like champs.
And we're on the flip side to say, you know what, even in those scenarios, when you honor life, it is a massive blessing.
Absolutely.
When you do everything you can to honor that life for as long as God gives it, nobody on the other end says, that wasn't worth it.
Yeah, that's right.
Everybody says every minute with that child was worth it, whether the child dies in the womb or is born and lives for a few days or a few weeks for a few months or years. Yeah. Every minute was worth it.
That's right.
And you never say, oh, we should have killed it.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, and you got to think about this. I mean, the mainstream media is just really full of malice towards God, and they're full of liars. And think, CBS started in 1927. You know what they oversaw in media? The Jim Crow laws.
Oh,
they oversaw white people going to this fountain, black people going to this fountain, white people going to this side of the restaurant, black people, and here they are, still doing this crap.
Yeah,
and they've been morally messed up for decades.
Right. Yeah.
And here we are. I think more commercials. If anybody has what's a Super Bowl commercial? $2.5 million right now. $3 million for a Super Bowl commercial. 30 second slot.
Yeah.
I think it starts around there. You guys got to fund this commercial. Seriously.
This child was almost born into poverty, but we killed her in the nick of time. She's way better off dead. Just saying. This kid had a genetic defect. This one had Down syndrome. Yeah. Ooh. This one was missing a toe. That's just weird. You're welcome, baby. Saved you from a lifetime of hardship. No one has ever risen above their circumstances. This one had a single mom. This one was conceived in rape. No, sorry. It was this one. Or maybe it was this one. I can't really tell. They all look the same. I wouldn't want to see anyone born into a less than perfect life. That's just not humane. We kill them because we care. Aw, she's sucking her thumb.
Oh, man.
That is brutal.
Choice42.com.
Yeah.
That's Laura Clausen.
We've had her on the show before.
Yeah. One of the things that I've been going through in the summertime for family worship. I've been teaching my kids apologetics. It's fun. Because they get it. After you go through a lot of Bible, your kids really start getting it. And one of the things that we've been doing is going through pro-life apologetic stuff. Yeah. And so we've been teaching them about the syllogism, which is, and everybody should do this with their kids. Yeah. One is God says murder is wrong. Yeah. Abortion is murder. Therefore, abortion is wrong. Right. And then we kind of added a fourth piece to it, which is anybody who commits such acts should be judged, put to death. Yeah. Right. And so it's really easy. Like that's what we're talking about. Yeah. What does God say? Yep. What is this thing? Yep. And then what do we do to people who commit such acts? Right. Right. And so don't get tossed by the idea of what about this situation or that situation? What is it and what is it for? Yeah. Yeah. What is your responsibility? I mean, because it does not end at just the question of abortion. It's always my life for yours, right? It's always my life for yours. But if you start developing a culture where it's your life for mine, it doesn't stop there at the womb. It's going to go, now your husband's going to be thinking about like, what do I got to do to get rid of you so I can get the life that I really want? You're the thing holding me back from getting what I really want. That's not the way the world is designed. It's my life for yours. That's what happens every time at Lord's Supper, right? You're learning that's the narrative. That's the story. He gave his life for ours. We live that way, and that produces a certain type of culture. All right. And this makes me so upset because I think this is
you said something there that I just want to underline because I think it's really worth underlining. A husband who goes along with this murder.
Yes.
Once, twice, more. Like this is the French Revolution. Like the French Revolution, it wasn't like the revolutionaries were like, okay, after we guillotine these people, that'll be enough. It was never enough. There's always this growing circle of the true citizen, true equality, real liberty, which it turns out was a black hole because it was just the will of man. It was just the will of the people. Yep. And then when the will of the people turned on Robespierre and his people were the next people in the guillotine. If you live by the sword, you die by the sword. And if it's all about the will of the people, what I want, what my preferences, what my hopes and dreams are, rather than my life for yours, it never ends.
That's right.
There's not a there.
That's right.
Which is why, unfortunately, J.D. Vance's answers kind of play into that.
It does.
I want to be clear. I think there really are worlds apart in terms of the cultures we're talking about. And I do broadly believe that Trump and Vance represent a culture of life. Yeah. And Kamala and what's his name?
Can we call it a leaky culture of life?
Yeah. But I'm just thinking, but I think nevertheless, Vance gave an unfortunate answer.
Yeah.
Because it's not the will of the people. We're talking about human lives. That's right. And he should have said, ultimately, this is a matter of justice before God.
Yep.
I'm not in a position to enforce that right away, immediately, but these are human lives. Right. And that's what we should be talking about.
And this is why, we talk about this issue right here touches all the issues. So when you start talking about abortion, we shouldn't change the question of responsibility when we get to child tax credit.
Right. That's where they start talking about next. Yeah.
You've been talking about the concern about the low birth rate in the United States of America, which is well documented.
Stop.
You said people without
voting.
Stop. We just spent this last tirade talking about
abortion
and abortion.
Yeah. And now she's concerned about low birth rates?
Well, and everybody is. Yeah. Everybody then is looking
because CBS oversaw the Roe v. the Jim Crow laws. They can't see.
But that's because the God here is the will of the people.
How do
the will of the people? They want to pull people out of thin air.
When Jim Crow
and
laws
they want to take them out
what the populist movement wants, they're cool.
This is pure insanity. Yep. We can't say, hey, let's kill our kids and then let's worry about the birth rate at the same time. Anyway, keep going.
Children should pay higher tax rates than those who have children, and the U.S. should look at lowering income tax rates on women who have multiple children, and you pointed to Hungary as a model for that. How do you plan to implement that policy?
Well, it's called the child tax credit, and we should expand the child tax credit. If you think about what the child tax credit does.
You and the Biden administration agree on the child care tax credit?
Well, we think it should be bigger. Different. I think President Trump and I believe in expanded child tax credit, but we also importantly want to actually get this thing done.
What you want to do to expand the child care tax credit, because it's like $2,000 per kid right now.
Well, I think one of the things you can do is make it bigger per child. I think we'd love to see it at a higher dollar value. And again, President Trump and I have proposed that. I mean, look, I'd love to see a child tax credit that's $5,000 per child, but you of course have to work with Congress to see how possible and viable that is.
Twice she said child care, and he's only said child tax credit. Those are two different things.
I don't care what she's talking about.
Yeah.
Even what he says he's talking about.
I know, but I'm just saying
problematic
they're
to me.
talking past each other.
So is it okay for the government to incentivize in this way? Because what JD's arguing for, she's talking about child care, and JD's saying, no, I'm happy to give a child tax credit per family, which they already do. It's like $2,000 per kid or something like that.
Right.
Right.
Yeah,
That's been going on.
It's soft socialism.
Yeah. But in our current circumstances, would you vote for or be okay with a tax policy that incentivizes having children? Because that's what that is.
But I think the way I wish she would have gone with what she said, because what she actually said was less taxes, lower taxes for those who have children. That would be even better. But lower taxes means you get to cut out tax. They don't take as much.
Keep your money.
Keep more money.
Yeah.
A tax credit is one in which they take all your money and then they put it in a big pool, and the government comes back to you and says, okay, you can have more, whether or not you actually had that taken from you or not.
Yeah, right.
And that's socialism. That's redistribution of incomes.
Pastor.
Now, do I prefer that to them not doing that at all and them just taking, and not valuing children at all? Yeah, I guess I do. But it's the same, like we've been talking about ESAs. Education savings accounts and school choice issues. And that's one of the ideas on the table in some states is doing education tax credits, which is socialism, but it's soft socialism.
I think we just watched a lion and a bear decide that they should eat us for dinner. What they're arguing about if they should use ketchup or hot sauce. That's what we just got done seeing. Pastor, I remember a story that I think it was the one that you told about the rats, how that the government legislated that you made so much money for every rat or something that you brought in because they had a rat problem.
That was New York, wasn't it? Wasn't New York had a rat problem or something?
Yeah, sounds really familiar. I totally forgot about that.
So they gave it there was a credit for every one you brought in. They paid you amount of money, right?
So people started farming rats in their own house.
What they did was they started breeding rats, and they got more rats. And then they had a problem, and so you got more of what it is that you legislated, right? But they didn't fix the problem. Remember the welfare system? People forget the welfare system gave you money as a single. First of all, had to be a single mom, and then the more kids you had, the more money you got to be able to spend that money. And so we saw women go out there and have...
we got the name Welfare Queen.
Welfare Queen. They started having babies.
So they get that money.
So they can get the welfare check and be taken care of. And they made it a career. And this isn't a new thing. This was going on back in the 60s. This is an old narrative, an old play. And so instead of getting more families from it, we end up getting more illegitimate families and breaking down our economic system because of it.
Which is why the difference between a credit and lower taxes matters. Because the credit you get sort of just because you have kids. It doesn't incentivize the work. But lower taxes actually incentivizes the work. You can keep more of your money.
That's right.
That matters.
That's right.
That actually matters. And again, I think in the middle of it all, she's talking about child care tax credits, which is like money for daycares.
Daycare. So she finally does get JD to that point of talking about child care.
But that's just like super socialism.
Well, but the fact that he's not correcting her, I think makes it more of a point to me that they don't mind blending this reality.
I wonder. Yeah,
I don't think those things were so different for him.
Or did he think she was just? I don't know. Yeah, it seems strange.
Well, let's roll this child care clip.
Go ahead.
So you have personally opposed universal child care. How do you solve the child care crisis in America?
Well, what I've opposed is one model of child care. We, of course, want to give everybody access to child care, but look, in my family, I grew up in a poor family where the child care was my grandparents. And a lot of these child care proposals do nothing for grandparents. If you look at some of these proposals, they do nothing for stay-at-home moms or stay-at-home dads. I want us to have a child care policy that's good for all families, not just a particular model of family, and that's what I've said.
So what do you mean by that? There would be like a credit per kid if it's a stay-at-home mom, credit per kid if it's grandma.
Yeah, exactly.
They get a check
to take care of
that's
exactly what I proposed. Now, that's exactly what we've proposed both publicly and I've talked about doing privately. I'm just saying that I don't want us to favor one family model over another. If you've got grandparents who are at home taking care of the kids, I think they deserve to be treated the same way as other family models by their government.
Gay families. They'd be included.
Oxymoron.
All families.
All families would be included, of course. All families would be included.
What JD is ultimately arguing for, whether he signs off to this or not, is that the government will own your kids through this process. That's what,
He slips in there, whether private or public.
Yeah.
But it's like you're just talking about. I mean, if you're talking about the government taking care of your kids and they're paying the bills,
this will wreck.
This means that it's a form of ownership.
But this goes back to what Bonson wrote in his book, Crisis of Responsibility.
Yeah,
we have no responsible people, to the point where you think that somehow the president is supposed to be concerned about your child care.
Yeah.
And who gets money? If you, like, that's not.
Yeah.
That's insanity.
I mean, like this. I mean, this is a nanny state.
Mm-hmm.
Like this is the nanny state. Like they care about all of these things.
The reason why JD turned out decent is because of his grandparents.
Grandparents, yeah.
His mom was a wreck, and his grandparents were stabilizing, I think, Christian forces in his life.
Yeah.
Or at least, some sort of Baptist religious.
Foul-mouthed Baptist.
Yeah. And if the government would have been paying grandma and grandpa to raise him, that would have messed it all up.
Yep.
It is not the government's responsibility to take care of your children.
No.
I mean, it is not. And so there's all sorts of fail-safes that are built in. It's funny. We look at the what is it, the bride tax, and we like hate stuff like that.
The bride tax, yeah.
Right? We look at that and be like, oh, that's horrible.
That's
like
archaic.
It's archaic. And then we're sitting up here and saying the government should be responsible to make sure my kids get daycare and childcare. It's like, oh my goodness, you people are insane. Yeah. One has a duty and responsibility that's built and baked into it so that no one else has to be concerned about taking care of your kids and your family but you. And the other one is making everybody responsible for your kids.
Right.
But don't miss this in this conversation, because JD is arguing what Democrats were arguing 10 years ago.
Again,
and the Republicans never would have argued for this.
Massive missed opportunity.
Massive
missed opportunity. The government running anything. It's like having the DMV run everything.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
This is just, you don't want them running schools because they're not going to do a good job. You don't want them running healthcare because you don't want them doing those things. You don't want the DMV taking care of your kids.
It's funny you bring up school because that's what they talk about next.
Oh, no.
What about really young kids? Should 3- and 4-year-old kids have access to preschool?
Well, look, I think that certainly some families are going to choose that, but again, some families are going to choose grandparents and so forth. I think our view...
Well, that's childcare. That's different than
our view... Well, very often preschool is childcare, is at least a form of childcare. I know that when I went to preschool, my parents used...
preschool.
Yeah, and we used it as childcare, right? You're hoping the kids get a good education, but you're also doing it because you want to provide childcare for your kids. I don't think there's anything incongruous or inconsistent about that. And I think, look, we believe that we want to make it easier for American families, Margaret, to make their own choices on this stuff. When we talk about school choice, of course, school choice would apply to all families. It would apply to all parents. And we would just want parents to have choices.
Including for preschool, because in many public school systems, there is no preschool. That's why I'm asking.
I think that we want parents to have choices, Margaret. Like I just said, we want them to be able to make the choices that make the most sense for their family. For some, it's going to be preschool. For some, it's going to be daycare. For some, it's going to be having the kids stay at home a little bit longer. We just want the government to treat everybody equally, regardless of whatever education or family model you have.
Look at this CBS chick who works for CBS, who was cool Jim Crow laws in the 60s and 70s. And look at, she wants the government to offer preschool to kids. She wants the kids in the government. Mm-hmm. She wants the kids in the government school. JD is a little softer and says, I want them to have a choice. Yeah. This is a losing argument. Remember, so the preschool argument started coming from the leftists about 10 years ago again.
Yeah.
Like, we want universal preschool for everybody.
There was, maybe, I don't know if he's got it in him. I don't know if Trump would roll with this or not, but wouldn't it be glorious if he just said, well, when the public schools are defunded,
yeah,
all parents will have plenty of choices.
Yeah. And a lot of their money back.
It's missed opportunities.
Yeah.
Missed opportunities.
No, I agree with you.
But that's not a populist argument.
But I think it's missed opportunities to a certain sect of people who are taking responsibility.
Yeah.
But for the people who are not taking responsibility, this really does sound inviting to them because they don't see any other way out. And I get
another year without my kid?
I was just thinking, I don't think that they're even thinking like that. I think they're thinking of, look at all the money I can make if I had someone here to watch my kid. Yeah. Let's just think about it in the most positive way that you could. Or look at the things that I could do for my family if we had this. I remember when we had Alex, my first child, the first thing that I thought about, and I had to repent of this, the first thing I thought about was, oh man, Sharon's not going to be working a full-time job anymore. I'm going to lose
X amount of money.
It's the first thing I thought about when I found out she was pregnant. And I remember it broke me that was the first thought that was running through. I'm a Christian, by the way, evangelical, just became Reformed and all of it. All I thought about was, oh, wow, look at the opportunity that we have to nourish another human being, to teach him about the Lord. God's going to provide for us.
And to have a mother.
I was that Romans 1 part crept in right away, whereas I wasn't thankful.
Yeah.
And because I wasn't thankful, I didn't see that God could provide. He just provided me a human life to take care of. And somehow I thought that God was going to turn me down on blessing me and be able to provide for them. And I was like, no, all of a sudden I got to take the reins. And so I was just thinking about this. Somehow what we talk about with taking responsibility is not a position that's tenable for election in America. Just think about this for a second.
Yeah.
The conversation that we're having, that we're talking about.
But Vance is the guy to have it.
I'm not saying that he's not, but I'm saying that even they know to talk like this would lose out on possibly an election. And I don't think they're wrong about that. What I'm upset about is that nobody's having this talk or talking like this on a public stage who has a real opportunity. Yeah. But you have to step back and say, well, why is it the case that this isn't a comfortable landing spot for leaders like this to be able to talk like? They don't even talk like that to their base.
Right.
And I'm like, why is it that our idea and our way of thinking is such an unelectable position to have in the public sphere?
I wonder, and maybe that's a really good question. And I wonder if part of what has to be done is more dots need to be connected. If the government is paying for it, then the government will tell you what to do with it.
Yeah.
And like, I mean, I don't know if it needs to be like, I mean, the COVID thing was a big moment for a lot of mainstream people. I don't know, is the COVID thing big enough to get you elected?
You know,
is the government telling you what to do with your business, what to do with your church, what to do with your, what chemicals to put in your body and a mask to put on your face, stand 6 feet apart? I mean, is that enough? You don't think it is?
No, I think that we have such a, every question that we're having that she's asking him is really a moral question. And it's a moral question that deserves and demands a God to be able to say, this is my morality, this is how we should operate. We don't have Christians who think that the God of the Bible has...
But in the absence of that God having authority in people's lives, I mean, obviously you still say they're made in the image of God, this is, family government and so on. But in terms of like the electability question...
Because we don't have we've been talking about this with the death of the Constitution. If you don't have a moral foundation that comes from Christianity to the people, I dare you to go and ask your pastor, what do you think the moral tax code should be? Yeah. It's just amazing. They won't even have an answer for you.
It's a dotted line. It's a dotted line.
JD Greer.
Let me read this here real quick. What? So JD Greer released a response to Megan Basham.
Okay.
In today on his blog,
to the Shepherds for Sale
book. For Sale book.
There it is.
And I don't really have much comments on because I just don't know tit for tat, whatever, But Proverbs 18:17, let both sides speak. And I would just caution, especially those on our side, they just immediately attack JD Greer when his blog post is released. It's like nope.
He has a history, though. I'm just going to say.
I know. And I understand.
But you're right. You're right.
In the middle of his blog post, this is what caught my eye in the middle of his blog post. He said, I've consistently maintained that Summit Church's primary focus is not to offer political solutions on these things. That's not our calling. Yes, where there is a straight line between a Bible teaching and a public policy, like i.e. abortion, sanctity of marriage, and so forth, I robustly advocate for that policy. But where there is only a dotted line, ... e.g., immigration policy, social safety net, marginal tax rate, and so forth, I teach biblical principles and encourage members to connect dots with Christian wisdom.
There you go.
Yeah.
That's why we can't, we're not electable. When your pastors teach like that
biblical tax should
and
look
don't
like.
have a morality that comes from the Bible and they have ...
Yeah.
Then we have the objective reality of what the scriptures teach on the topic are not inherent in the people.
Right.
So then you can say all this stuff and you won't be electable. And it's because of, I really put it at the foot of our churches. Yeah. We have to know, I think we're at a 20-year point where in order to have a real electable candidate where we can say the kind of things that we're saying here that they can say publicly is because we've done the groundwork to teach certain type of biblical morality from our churches that are inherent in the people.
Right.
That says, what are you talking about? It's a human being. And we can see the growth in this when we look at the pro-life movement.
Right.
It's amazing, like over the last 40 years, how far in the last 10 the pro-life movement has moved to really understand this, to where they're saying, wait a second, if it's murder, there should be some civil penalties for killing another human being, right? It's not a ...
Yeah.
And so I think
that's good. So you're saying in order to have an electable Christian,
yes,
who's thoroughly and consistently Christian in his morality, you really have to have an electorate.
Yes,
that has been discipled.
Yeah, that's right.
By thinking pastors and elders.
Yeah, otherwise you get ...
Or JD Vance.
Right. Yeah. Well, that's what. Yeah. And it's the same thing.
Yeah.
So then you kind of
JD Vance is ...
JD Greer.
I mean,
JD Vance is JD Greer.
Yeah. All right. Anyway, we have
a little more backbone. I don't know.
Yeah. Hey guys, let me finish here. We got a live show at the New Art this week on Thursday night with Nate Wilson and Dusty Devers.
Maybe we should talk about some of this. This would be great to talk about with some of
in Moscow. And don't forget Prodigal America conference in Fort Worth, Texas this fall, October 31st, November 2nd. Where does America need to repent? Join us there, prodigalamerica.com.
So if you're single, get married. If you're married, have you some kids. And if you have kids, go baptize them. Until tomorrow, love God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength. Love your neighbor as yourself. Go fight, laugh, and feast. This is Cross Politic.
There's a growing movement in the American workplace, one that's not dominated by a political party or ideology, but by real Americans who oppose the divisive rules and cancel culture mandates that have invaded many of the nation's largest companies. This is a movement of hometown America, people who want to build their careers, raise their families, and live their faith in the spirit and legacy of the American dream. At Red Balloon, we're connecting no-nonsense employers with hardworking employees, people who are passionate about bringing accomplishment and success to their workplace. If you're an employer looking for serious talent, you need to post your job on Red Balloon. And if you're an employee who's tired of a cancel culture workplace, then come to Red Balloon and find your future. Because you should be free to grow your career, and you shouldn't have to choose between your job and your values.